Drumroll Creek.
Happy New Year. It's actually New Year's Day. Welcome to 2025. Up here this weekend, we're going to get the generator up and running. So we have this 8.5 kilowatt Champion generator sitting here ready to go. I'll need to plumb the propane to it. It's propane based, which is great because it runs real clean and there's no diesel fuel or regular fuel to go bad all the time. Propane pretty much lasts forever. So I got to plumb the propane into it, and then I'm going to run all of the electrical wire into the trench we dug back to the building. It's sitting about, 80 feet from the building or so. I'll be putting some posts in over here. That's the project for today. And once we get it done, I'll do a little walkthrough of the generator. Get some quick footage of putting the conduit into the trench for the main power wires for the generator. This big conduit here, it's a 1.5 inch. This will actually carry all 4 wires for the generator, 2 hots, neutral, and ground. And then it also is carrying a 14.2 Romex because we're going to bring power back from the solar plant to keep the batteries charged on the generator when it's not being used. And then it runs through the trench we dug all the way up. Not done there, I got to still do that part, but this post here, which you can see all my crazy boards trying to keep it level, doing this by myself, and that's a 6x6 that's completely waterlogged, so it weighs a ton. So I had to kind of just wedge it into place. And then that post will house the breaker box that controls the shutoff for the generator. Will come down from it and into the back of the generator here. I'll show you that when we do that. To hold this post, I'm trying something new. Well, I don't know, it might not be new to other people, but it's this, I guess it's Sika Post Fix. It's basically kind of like a polyurethane spray foam, or it is a polyurethane foam, but it's designed to hold non-structural posts, so fence posts, mailboxes, all that kind of stuff. Just can't hold like a deck. So I'm going to try this out. You basically mix it up in the bag, you cut it, pour it in the hole. One of these bags is equal to 2 50-pound bags of concrete. Must expand pretty well. And it says it sets in 3 minutes, so we're going to try it out and see how good it does. So I just put a block in the trench there, so it doesn't all pour out that way. So we'll fill that hole, see how it expands. If I need a second one, I'll put it in. This actually says on a 6x6 post, if the hole diameter is 10 inches and you're 48 inches down, you need 2 bags of this. Well, I'm definitely not 48 inches down. I'm probably 24 at the most. A little bit wider than probably 10, so it's probably 14 by 12 maybe. So maybe one will do it. Well, it seems to work pretty good. I screwed up the first bag when I mixed it, so I actually ended up putting 3 bags in, but it really would have only been 2. That bag that didn't mix very well didn't do much, but yeah, you can see it really filled up that entire hole. And it's good and solid. So once we get the dirt packed in and back here, we'll backfill this trench and pack it all in. It should be great. Okay, we got the main power lines and the 14.2 Romex for charging the battery all pulled through the conduit and laid, foamed in down here. So that post is all solid. We'll backfill it here. And then that conduit, that's, like I said, 1.5 inch, pulling the red, black, green, and white wires for the generator, hot, neutral, ground, plus a Romex 14.2 for the battery charger, through the trench, all the way up to right there. Sorry about the generator noise. Where we'll be able to come right up underneath the building there and go right into the electrical cabinet. The other piece that's still being done is the low voltage stuff, which is this conduit, which has a 6-pair control wire line in it. So you can see right there. I'm also pulling a couple Ethernet cables through here, and this will run in the trench as well, all the way back. And it'll run up here into the generator for control wire. And then the Ethernet will come out to go to a camera over here. There's where we are as of the end of today. Tomorrow morning, should be able to get the rest of it in the ditch, and then we'll start burying it up. Up nice and early for another chilly, I guess going to be damp day. Forecast says a little bit of rain the next hour or two, and then just cloudy all day. So now we're going to be working on mounting right here. We're going to be putting this breaker panel right there for a shutoff for the generator. So we will mount that right up here, terminate these wires inside it, The Romex, as I mentioned, which is going to carry just 120 volts back to the battery charger inside the generator to keep the batteries charged when we have solar. So I'll just terminate that inside the box and then pass it through another piece of Romex down. Probably just use a wire nut since that's a weather type box. Should be good. And then we got to finish the low voltage line, which you see is right there. The very far end down there, we still have to terminate everything into the building. So we'll do that later today. Goal would be today to have all of the electrical done all the way to the generator. Control wires, I probably don't know if I'll get to those today or not. They're not as critical. They're more just for remote start. And then we'll start on the propane part. Also, while I had the trench dug, I decided to replace the grounding rods. You can see here that there's 2 grounding rods. These are much larger, with a much larger grounding wire. It's just pure copper, running back to the building than the old one. I had a 4-foot, pretty skinny grounding rod on the building before, but while I had this here, I figured I'd put a couple more in deep in. I was going to do a full 8-foot, but the rock is so heavy down about 6 feet in that I couldn't get them in, even with the power hammer. So I just did 2 4-footers side by side and connect them together, so should work pretty good. Okay, we got everything trenched and put in conduit and run into each end. So in the cabinet over there, the wires are up inside and ready to go. And then all the way down here, we have the high voltage right here, and it's ready for its breaker and termination. And then over here we have the low voltage stuff. The control wire is in here for controlling the generator, as well as some Ethernet cables that I pulled through there. So this will get connected over. That'll get connected over next. But this is all done, so we can start burying the trench now and get that out of the way. Clean all this up, make it look nice again. Well, we got the trench all buried here. You can see there's the conduit taking the power and the control lines up. This was the trench we had earlier. You can see we used the little cat here to fill it all in. Started working on the whip that's going to go over to the generator. So got this box in. I just need to put the breaker in it. Got this whip started. But getting a little chilly. It's going to get dark here in a bit, so call it a night. Once we hook that whip up, then we can start on the propane. Well, it's super crappy today. You probably can't tell, but it is just jumping out this morning. Probably about, I don't know, 42 degrees out, so not so warm either. But I got my little canopy up, so good enough. So we're going to wire the generator up today, get the 2 hots to neutral and the ground in, and then wire the Romex into the battery charger on this end. Then I will finish wiring that breaker right there, and then we're connected. And then we'll start on fuel. So obviously the 2 hots, the ground and the neutral go right there. And then there's a little terminal block here. Pin number 9 is where I'll wire the hot from the charger wire, the Romex. And the neutral and ground just go on the main lugs. And that'll provide power to the battery charger. Let's do it. Okay, so we've got the 2 hots, the neutral and the ground in there. Up in the generator lugs. And then the charger wire from that Romex that I've been talking about is right here. It's got to go into pin 9 up here. I've not done that yet, but I did put its ground and neutral into the main lugs, which is what they said to do. So that'll give the battery charger 120 volts to keep the batteries charged. Ultimately, you could just put a solar panel on this thing and charge them that way. I may do that someday, but this seemed like a good, easy solution for now, a little cheaper. And I got my Mr. Heater portable buddy going. Nice and toasty. So those wires then come through this flex conduit up to here, which is where the breaker goes. I did wire pulled in from here, brought in the ground neutral hots. So I'm going to drop in the breaker, terminate these 2. I'd already wired the neutral and the ground for the back to the building. And then this is that Romex. I will just splice that right here in the box. Close this box up, and then the generator will be wired all the way to the building. So let me get this done, and then we will start on propane. All right, we got all that wired. We got the breaker in, the pass through for the charger wire, and we're good to go. So we'll be putting the plate back in, closing this up, and moving on. So it'll be a small little 3x3 building there. It'll hold propane tanks, and then we'll be putting the CSST, which really shouldn't be direct buried on its own, inside that flex conduit that's doesn't have a metal sleeve in it. It's just a weather tight type conduit. We'll run the CSST through that and bury it around here back into the back of the generator. So we've got this 40-pound propane hooked up right now to the special regulator I bought for this project, 3/4 inch CSST, which is actually going through flex conduit. This is not supposed to be direct buried. I think it could be because it's metal and then it's got this shield on it, but recommendation was not to do that, so I just put it inside that flex conduit, which is buried around to this side. Comes out right there into there. The generator comes with a flexible hose in case you're connecting to a rigid line due to vibration. Since this is not a rigid line, I didn't worry about putting that in. Obviously then like I started before the power's in, so gas should be good. I did a quick leak check yesterday, but it was a little windy and it's hard to tell, so we'll do that again today. Well, it's extra delicious today. You can see some yummy good rain, and it's only about 43 and it's already 10 a.m. so it'll be a cold one today, but fortunately we're under the shelter. We're going to put the oil in the generator, change out the burner from natural gas, which is what it comes with, to propane. The generator comes with the adapter for that. It's a different jet. Looked pretty easy to change. I've changed them if you saw our stuff on the Z-Line range inside the building that we put in, I had to change them out in that one. And I've done it on barbecues and stuff. It's super easy. This one's pretty straightforward. The 12K generator, which is much bigger, looks a little bit more complicated. I think it has 3 jets, but should be straightforward. Then we'll turn this back on, do some more leak checks. If that all looks good, got the oil in, jets changed, then we will put the starter batteries in, see if it comes online. If it does, we'll start it, make sure the propane works, check for leaks again. If the generator can run without any load on it, that's a really good place to be. And then all that's left is just wiring it inside the cabinet to the charger, and then we can try it out. So we'll try to get through today as warm as we can and see how it goes. All right, I got those 2 little guys replaced. These are the natural gas ones I took out, but they're up under here. Have to remove this pipe. There's one inside that shaft, and then there's one right there. They are threaded counterclockwise, but you're upside down, so make sure you're turning them the right way. They're a little bit of a pain to get out. They give you this little tiny tool, but the problem is you get up inside there and it's hard to grab onto that to turn them and get it the right kind of angle on it. I would recommend, and I didn't have one small enough, is if you have those cool wrenches that have a ratchet in one end, if you had one of those, that would make this really easy. However, the smallest one I had was a 8mm, and I think this is probably like a 6. So I'll find out, because I'm probably going to buy that tool, whatever size that is, and leave it in here with this thing. I should never have to replace these again, but you never know. So anyways, I will post on here this video what that size is in case you're doing one of these, because that's usually pretty easy, but it was kind of a pain in the ass. But you can certainly do it yourself, especially if you had that right tool. So okay, got 1.2 quarts oil in here, and now we're going to hook up the batteries. So we got the 2 Mighty Mule batteries in here. These are 12-volt batteries. They're U1. I think they're group 12. That just basically specifies the size so they fit in here. They're actually 2. The system runs 24 volts. That way they can keep the voltage high and the current low. One thing they do with using a higher voltage is they can spin the starter faster. So by spinning the starter faster, they can get a better chance of starting the engine. So they run 24 volts. So I've got 2 12s. They're wired in series. So positive in, negative to positive, negative out to the generator. So, and we actually have an hour meter working. So looks like it's powered up. It's got all the oil in. So let's give it a try and see if we can test start it. Put it in manual mode, on, test. Give it a second. Wow, that got a lot quieter. So it's running now. There's no load on it. Man, especially with the exhaust pointed on that side. Now it's raining out here, so that might cover some of it, but let's see. I almost can't even hear it now. I can hear the generator on the porch. That one's louder. Oh man, can almost not even hear that. Love it. All right, let's button it up and see if we can put a load on it. I gotta wire the cabinet first. Well, it's finally dark and 44 degrees out. It's not too bad, it's still raining. You can hear the generator still running. We fired it up around, I think that test I just showed was about 2 p.m. And right now it is 5, so about 3 hours, I think. And we took the entire battery bank from 72% to 92% in that time. Seemed like it was doing about 10% every hour and 15 minutes or so. Normally it would never be down to 72%, but because we haven't had the generator and there's not been a lot of solar, it's been a downhill battle for the last 4 or 5 days where every day it's just a little bit lower. We did have the little tiny portable generator running it. However, that charger can only push about 12 amps, so you generate enough power to kind of power the building during the day and get a little bit of juice in there, so over time you lose. Now with the new one though, as you can see, we're at 56 to 60 amps going into the batteries constantly. It kind of fluctuates between 1500 and 1800 to 1900 watts, which is great because that's almost what the, not quite what the solar does on a great sunny day, but I figure, you know, if we have this thing auto kick on at maybe below 90 or maybe 85%, it can bring the whole system back up in an hour or less, which is great. And it doesn't look like it's used hardly any propane. The tank feels as heavy as it did. I didn't have a measurement device on it, so I don't really know for sure, but we'll do that down the road. I'll get a better measurement of it. But I did do an amperage test on the breaker panel, on the shutoff breaker that would come out of the generator into that breaker, and then we go to the building. And one leg of that was only pulling 20 amps, and the building was pushing 60 into the batteries, and we had 800 to 1,000 watts of AC running. The Victron Multi Plus that we have does a really good job of sending, since it's the charger and the inverter, it'll send power directly to the AC stuff, the inverted side, as much as it needs, while still maintaining the batteries at its maximum charging capability, which is up to 70 amps. It seems to sit around 60 to 65 most of the time. So that's great, because then we don't lose power going into the battery charging while we're still using the building. So we fired everything up. We turned on all the lights, we turned on the vacuum, turned on a whole bunch of stuff to kind of run the AC side up really hot, and battery charging wasn't even phased. And then I ran out and took an amperage check, and it was around 20 amps. So that means at a 50 amp breaker there, that generator's not even putting out half its capability with all that going on. So we're in pretty good shape now. If we ever get in a position where we need more power, it's just always going to be there. So that's really exciting. It was good to get this project done. It took a couple days to get through all this work, but I'll do a walkthrough of the whole thing and what we did exactly and what we changed, or didn't change, but what we added, and we'll put all that together and hopefully either put it on the end of this video or put out a short video with it. Good job, generator.